Welcome to Transformation Anonymous. Hi, I'm Bob. And I'm addicted to transformation. In fact, I'm particularly interested in those moments when we have a chance to make gigantic changes. Not the average, everyday, run-of-the-mill kinds of things. I'm talking breathtaking shifts. And in the 35 years that I've been working in the change industry, I've learned a few things, some important things. In fact, this is one of the most important that I've learned. We don't resist change. No, I'm not delusional, although some might think I am, and you know who you are. I think this statement is true because I also think this statement is true. It's not so much that we resist change, we resist being changed without our permission, without our involvement, without our participation. The notion of change being done to us is very different than change being done through us. Here's a picture of the way that change normally happens in organizational life. We get some people, they go off someplace, they think up some ideas, they go places like Vail or Breckenridge. Now, given the fact that 90% of the Earth's oxygen is in the first mile, why would you go to 9,000 feet to do strategic planning? But they do, and they come back and they hold webinars and they print t-shirts and they have all kinds of stuff going on, and it doesn't work. So then they engage team buy-in, these 8 individuals trying to drag the elephant up the hill. That doesn't work much better. So what do they resort to then? They stick the change into our performance management systems and then make us do it. Who thought that was a good idea? There's a completely different picture of change if we allow it to be true. Here's our son Spencer when he was 10. And this involved a change for me. There's something he wanted to do. He wanted to drive a go-kart at his cousin's house, and I was not being moved on the subject. We went through a conversation of change being done through us. We talked about the rules, we talked about safety, and when I finally changed my mind, this is the face I was rewarded with. Isn't that a picture of enthusiasm, of engagement, of passion? How often do you see this face when change is happening around you? Like I said, there's a completely different way of looking at this. As I've helped hundreds of individuals and dozens of organizations through the process of change, here's something else I've discovered. This notion of these breathtaking shifts, these huge changes, we can kind of net it into 3 steps. Now be careful, it looks linear, it looks simple. In reality, it looks more like this. The first stage, called allow, is frenetic and chaotic, and there's fits and starts and back and forth. What we do is we see the door. The door offers the gift of transformation. It may take months or years for us to finally walk up to the door and peer inside, and then we shut it quickly because what's there often isn't what we wanted or expected. And we go back into this mess called allow. Eventually, something causes us to finally allow the gift of transformation to come forward. We open the door, we look inside, and we decide it's time to go through. The challenge, however, in order to get there, is we have to be willing to take our bags full of limiting beliefs and historical biases and all the stuff we've carried around for years, and we have to leave it behind. It doesn't fit through the door. On the other side of the door, we have an opportunity then to appreciate as we accept the change that's coming. Acceptance leads to appreciation, and it's a stair-step sort of a model. Again, it may take months or years for us to finally fully appreciate the change. Now, there's a story I want to tell about my life, a fierce agreement that I've made, the most transformational moment of my life. Before I get there, I want to ask you, is there a doorway in your life today? Have you walked up and are you standing in front of something? Is it asking you to accept? Is it something to do with your career? Something to do with your family? Your health? What is it? Each of us has a door that we're staring at. What's yours? So let me tell you my story. In order to do that, I have to introduce myself to you in a way that I've never done in a public setting this large before. Here we go. Hi, I'm Bob. Hi. And I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for 25 years, 2 months, 13 days, 6 hours, 14 seconds. 25 years ago, I was a big mess, but I thought I had it under control. I could handle anything, including a little social drinking. Well, not true, not even close. I needed a giant kick in the pants to get me moving, and I got it. You see, back then I was well known in this international circle of computer geeks. I was a regular speaker, writer, had the big idea, the inside scoop, and I was at a conference. I was a speaker there. And after yet another night of heavy drinking, I found myself trying to get back to my hotel. You know, I'd been the life of the party, I'd been giving pithy sorts of statements to people. It was time for me to get back to my hotel. I had to drive there. I was convincing everyone that I was fine. Everyone but Nora, that is. Yep, she's just like that. She's one of the toughest, spit in your eye, cross her at your own peril kind of people. I've known her for years. Now here's how I remember the story. She took my keys, told me I could sleep it off on the floor, but I most certainly was going nowhere that night. Here's how she remembered the story when I checked back with her. She said, "I didn't take your keys, I took you." She wrapped herself around my leg, all 5'5" of Nora, 100 pounds soaking wet, and held on for dear life as I tried to drag her across the floor and break free. Have I mentioned she's tough? Next morning, however the story went, I wound up on the floor, bedhead, bloodshot eyes, clothes I'd slept in, reeking from a night of drinking. I was a picture of loveliness, and I had to get to my rental car. The path to the rental car, however, went all the way through the conference hotel. Hundreds of pairs of eyes followed me. I could not make eye contact. By the time I got to my rental car, sat down with myself, pulled the mirror down, I was absolutely, completely, and appropriately humiliated. I had a moment with myself right then. At that time, I walked up to the door. It was standing right in front of me, asking me to allow the transformation. I had to let things go. I had to drop my image. I had to get down on my knees. I had to walk through the door, leaving all of my biases, my beliefs, my safety net behind to accept the gift that waited for me on the other side. I know this. Had I not made that transformational step, had I not walked through the door and accepted the gift of transformation available, I would not be here with you today. I would not be married to my high school sweetheart, 36 years. I would have ruined the relationship with my 2 older children. I would not be father to 2 more children, nor would I have the chance to be papa to the most awesome granddaughter in the history of planet Earth. Really, you want to see my pictures? I can't tell you how much this little one has touched my heart. And the fact that my life was set up at some point that she might not be part of it, well, that breaks my heart. The choices we make, the fierce agreements, as I call them, that are available to us, they don't only affect ourselves, but they affect generations to come. Why don't we get there? Lots of reasons why we don't make it. First, we're addicted to data. As if you can reason someone out of a decision or a lifestyle they've emoted themselves into. Alcoholism. This is a study done by Harvard Medical School, released. 75 years of study about the sources of happiness for men, and by inference, the sources of unhappiness for men. Alcoholism, #1 cause of divorce. Alcoholism, closely linked with neurosis and depression, and combined with cigarette smoking, the #1 cause for morbidity and death. Someone like me that has addiction problems should be nowhere near this stuff. Data didn't work. Something else that doesn't work, ultimatums. Because I said so. Have you ever said that? What did it do for you when you heard it? Did it cause you to transform or just get quiet for a moment and then you misbehave later? Ultimatums don't work, and here's one I remember quite a bit from my growing up years. I'm a boomer. I'm old enough to remember my parents and my grandparents in particular saying this to me. Children are to be seen and not heard. Really? Many of you probably heard that too. Well, I mentioned this to our 19-year-old daughter, Grace. She cocked her head at me and said, "What does that mean?" Millennials today, it's all about sharing. It's comment and like and share and post and tweet. It's all about sharing our information. This notion for me as a boomer to sit down, shut up, and just go along doesn't fly with our younger generations. Can you see the problem we have with boomers managing millennials? All this leads up to this notion that buy-in flat does not work. It's not strong enough. It's too late by the time we go to look for it. Here's some examples of fierce agreements in the world. The two life-changing words when we go through the process and come out the other side. Haiti, January 2010, 200,000 people killed, 300,000 injured, 1 million left homeless. And yeah, the Red Cross $10 at a time texting campaign raised $31 million after 2 weeks, but that's not where the fierce agreement came in. It's the hundreds and thousands of people who just left where they were. They just went to Haiti. The cause was so powerful, they did whatever was necessary to get there, to serve. Another example, Vidal here in the upper left. He was photographed by a man named Brandon Stanton. He has a blog called Humans of New York. Vidal was asked, "Who's influenced you most in your life?" He said, "My principal, Ms. Lopez." "How has she influenced you?" "Well, when we get in trouble, she doesn't suspend us. In fact, there was a time when she made us stand up so she could tell us how important we were to her, how much we mattered." Yeah, this touched Brandon's life. He set up an Indiegogo fundraiser. They raised $1.5 million to support the school. But that's not the real fierce agreement. The fierce agreement is Nadia Lopez's decision to reframe her zero-tolerance policy for bad behavior where the punishment is more love. There's a fierce agreement. Here's a couple of client examples. City of Aurora, Aurora Water, building a very complex water conveyance and treatment system. Dozens of consultants and engineers and contractors and city employees. It was a petri dish for bureaucracy. What this group decided to do instead was to make the fierce agreement to focus on what's right, not who's right. As such, the project came in on time and $101 million under budget. That doesn't sound like government. Here's another example. City and County of Denver, fleet operations, police, fire, public works. An external study said you can save $5 million over 5 years, but we have to fire 18 people and we have to create a whole new level of bureaucracy. They said, no, let's do it ourselves. An employee-led group with their fierce agreement to take down their rearview mirror, look out the windshield instead, they found $16 million over 5 years. 18 people got to keep their jobs. And here's probably my favorite example of all. Miracle on Ice. A group of American college kids beat the best players in the world back in 1980. What happened here was the Americans made the fierce agreement to skate as a team. The Soviets could beat anybody in the world. However, when they ran into some bad luck and some motivated teenagers, they didn't know what to do. They crumbled. It was a miracle on ice. So what fuels this? I love this saying. It's from the writer of The Little Prince. Now, my French is terrible, so I'm just going to call him Antoine. Is that okay? He said, to build ships, don't drum up the men and gather wood and divide the work and give orders. Instead, Teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. Ships will get built. No buy-in required. So, what is it that you truly yearn for, sitting here today, talking to me? What is it? What's your cause? What would you drop everything to do? Who might you be Nadia Lopez for to reward bad behavior with more love? Who might you grab a hold of their ankle and hold them as they're trying to do something self-destructive? Here's my invitation to you. Make a fierce agreement. Allow it, accept it, and appreciate it. You can do it. I know you can. I'm with you 100% on that. Thank you so much.